Chapter 3, Molecules, Compounds, and Chemical Equations. This chapter covers a lot of stuff. Most of this should be review from your prerequisite class. How many different substances exist? I don't think that's a question that's easy to answer. So we know that there are 91 naturally occurring elements. Those elements can combine in different ratios. You can have 2 elements combining into a compound. You could have a compound that has 5 or 6 elements in it. All the possibilities mean that there's an almost limitless number of different compounds. And each compound has its own properties. So the diversity of substances that we see in nature reflects the ability of elements to form compounds. If elements didn't form compounds, there would only be 91 different substances. And that wouldn't work out for life very well. So let's look at hydrogen and oxygen. And this just illustrates that when elements combine, you end up with something much different than just the sum of the parts. It's not like adding where 1 plus 2 equals 3. If we put a hydrogen and oxygen together, we can make water. The properties of hydrogen, it boils far, far below 0 on the Celsius scale, so it's a gas at room temperature. It's explosive. Hydrogen is a dangerous gas. Oxygen, also a gas at room temperature, it's necessary for combustion. Nothing can burn if you don't have oxygen present. So a mixture of these 2 gases is highly flammable and dangerous. But when we combine them in a compound, we have something that has a boiling point of plus 100 degrees Celsius. It's a liquid at room temperature, and not only is it not flammable, but it's actually useful for extinguishing flames. Right? I mean, what a contrast. When 2 elements combine to form a compound, the substance that results is entirely new. And you cannot look at, it's not like, 2 parents having children. I'm of Swedish descent, my husband's of Japanese descent. You look at our children, they mostly look like him, but you can see a little bit of me in him, and you can kind of predict what would happen when these 2 people have children, right? You put 2 elements together in a compound, you cannot predict the properties of that compound based on the properties of the elements. All kinds of different things could happen. We talked about the law of definite proportion. We could have a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen. I said that would be really explosive. That can have any proportions of hydrogen and oxygen gas. A lot of hydrogen and a little bit of oxygen, or vice versa, equal amounts. But in a compound such as water, the proportion is always the same. There's always 2 hydrogen atoms for every 1 oxygen atom. No exceptions. The trains aren't enough, now we have sirens. So water has a definite proportion. I mentioned it and they shut up. I'm powerful today. Okay, so here's an illustration. The balloon, oxygen and hydrogen mixed together. You could have any ratio, but in a compound the ratio is fixed. It's definite.